Welcome back to Ultimate S&S. I hope everyone's having a great week. Just a few little things we're going to cover today. When it comes to prepping and just kind of stockpiling supplies and stuff, I know we don't go over a whole lot of the different type of stuff that we prep here, but I want to kind of give a basic examples of some things you need to look at. So anything that you use on a normal daily basis, or maybe it's things that you should be using on a normal daily basis, guys. So you need to make sure you have toothbrushes, toothpaste, some kind of an oral care mouthwash, stuff like that. If you have fillings and things like that, I would recommend getting repair kits and stuff like that for your teeth. They sell them at Walmart and a lot of your other stores and stuff. And the reason I say that is if you start getting an issue where like a filling comes out, that tooth starts to rot again and stuff like that, they actually have like this it's almost like a white putty, and a lot of it can be medicated where it actually gets rid of the tooth pain. Unfortunately, that means that you're going to have a tooth that will eventually rot out of your head, but you can use that stuff to actually numb it down. I would recommend getting extra sick ambisol, because what that's going to do, if you have to remove a tooth, it's going to make it so it's not quite as painful. It will still be painful though. Obviously, you're not going to be able to go to dentists and stuff, so take great care of your teeth if you can, guys. If you have medical conditions that cause teeth to get loose and stuff like that, diabetes, and there's all kinds of different types of stuff that can cause that issues, guys, then you need to be thinking about definitely wanting to have some mouthwash stuff, because if you have your mouth clean, you're not going to have to risk infections and stuff. It's not going to help with the pain much. But what can help with the pain? Well, there's different things you can use. You can use Tylenol, aspirin, you can use ibuprofen to help with the inflammation, stuff like that. But again, that needs to be something that you talk to about your doctor, what you can and cannot take. But I try to keep cold medicine and stuff. Now, you need to look at expiration dates and stuff. Cold and flu medicine does have an expiration date on that. It needs to be stored in a cool, dry place. Typically, I try to put that in like a lower cabinet where it's not going to be in the sun. It's not going to be in a situation where it's getting hot and stuff like that. And that's going to give you some extra stuff. But aspirin is a must, because aspirin is a fever reducer. It works great for that. So if you have a lot of high fevers and stuff like that, when you get sick, the stuff that you're buying to take care of those issues, you need to get now. Then you need to look at natural sources and stuff like that as well. So for those who don't realize, penicillin is actually something that occurs naturally in the environment. And where do we get penicillin from? Well, it's typically mold that is found on corn. That's where penicillin comes from. So learn how to process that type of stuff, and you're going to have some type of a penicillin for a severe infection type of a deal later on. That would be my recommendation. Understand you're going to need prescriptions to get certain things, but you can find the natural remedies, and you can even learn how to encourage that to happen, because down in Mexico, this is where I learned about penicillin, man. I didn't go to Mexico, but we had a lot of workers that had come up from Mexico, and they would take this moldy stuff off of corn and they would mix it with mayonnaise. And I always thought it was kind of weird. And they would look for the cobs that had the mold stuff on it when they would cut the corn cobs off. And they were explaining how that actually keeps you healthy, because if you're feeling down, stuff like that, if you've been dealing with some sickness and stuff, that's what they would do with it. Well, it's a natural source of penicillin there. And you need to make sure that it is the right type of mold. Obviously, guys, you do not want to be eating stuff that you're not sure what it is. So do your due diligence, do your research on that. It's going to help you. It's going to save your life. But if they can do it down there with the primitive technology and stuff that they've had years ago, I know they're catching up on times, but that's a hard life down that way. It really is. I don't know if you've ever talked to some of the people that come out from some of the areas in Central America and South America and stuff like that, guys, but they have it hard, and they have to learn how to do things naturally or you will die. So I would recommend learning a lot of that as well. When it comes to your gardens and stuff like that, you're going to run into issues with gardens. You're going to have abundance of crops that are coming off way too much. You're going to have some where you're not getting much of anything, or maybe you're not getting anything at all, and you're having these plants that are blooming and stuff. You need to figure out how to deal with that as well. And typically what the issue with that is you're putting too much nitrogen into your soil and not enough of your phosphorus, calcium, things like that as well. So you need to make sure you're watching your NPK. Understand the N, the nitrogen on that. That's going to give you leaf growth. It's going to make the plants boom. The PK values, those are what's going to have to do with your roots, the root health, and that plant flowering. So you can get bloom boosts and stuff like that. or you can make your own. Me personally, what I'm trying to do here is I try to find what kind of a bloom boost works well. So I'm trying a specific type with this garden right now, and I'm not real happy with it. I actually get better results just using a hardwood ash slurry. I mean, really, that seems to be what it is. And then making type of bone meal and stuff. So when we butcher quail, I don't do it with the chickens too much because I don't have a grinder to grind those bones down. But when it comes to quail, those are very easy. That's just take the bones, and usually what I will do is I will cook them over a grill and get them nice and hard, and then I will put them in some type of a chopper or a grinder. Coffee grinder is what I use. Stainless steel, don't use plastic and glass, it's going to break. And just grind that stuff up. Then you can continue to burn that on down with your wood ash, and what that's going to do is it's going to give your plants exactly what they need to be able to continue. And then you just make that into a slurry, guys. You add water to it, you come out and you pour it down on your plants and stuff, and you're going to notice within a few days the bloom is going to increase. You're going to have a lot of fruits coming off, vegetables, whatever you're using. When I say fruits, I don't always mean apples and oranges. I'm talking about the actual fruit that comes off of a plant, and you can name it a vegetable, you can name it a gourd, you can name it whatever you want to do. It's a type of a fruit. It is a fruit that is being produced. That's why I call it fruit, guys. So they're changing everything. When I grew up, tomatoes were a vegetable. They are now a fruit. When I grew up, squash, zucchini, and things like that was considered a vegetable. Some people considered some of that into gourd families as well. And then they kind of switched it up where now it is being called a fruit. So I don't go by what science says. I don't go by, what the popular narrative is. To me, Pluto is still a planet. You can call it a dwarf planet, whatever you want to. It is still a planet. I don't care what some guy with an honorary degree who didn't earn a PhD has to say about it. That's just kind of the way that I am, guys. It is a planet. Is it really up there? Hey, I've seen a lot of stuff through telescopes. Now, what they're telling us, is it really true? I don't really believe too much of what science says about the mysteries of the universe when we haven't even explored our own oceans. So it's kind of hard to take them serious on stuff. They come up, they have their theories and stuff, but then they like to teach those theories and those hypotheses and stuff like that are unproven to people as fact. And I have an issue with that. So what I would recommend doing is learn from people who do, not people who sit behind these little microscopes and stuff and come up and act like they can understand what's happening, on another planet or out in mild space or in the depths of the oceans when they don't even know what's going on in their own backyard most of the time. That's just kind of my opinion on the matter, guys. But I don't really know how we got sidetracked with that. But so you need to be making sure that you get what you can stocked up. That means food. If you don't have wells, and even if you do have wells, you need to be looking at getting water. If you have a well and you have a way to run that on a generator or a solar system or something like that, you are leaps and bounds, past what most people are set up. Most people are on city water, and for those who have ever had storms and things like that, city water can get shut off for lack of power. Maybe there's a ruptured line, and then it's contaminating the water source and all that kind of stuff. If you have a good well, then you don't have too much to worry about. You need a deep well. You don't need a shallow well, because shallow wells are kind of detrimental when it comes to what is going on around you. So, and you need to make sure that septic tanks and things like that are not near your well, otherwise you will contaminate your water source. Some good tips for those who are thinking about maybe putting wells in or septic systems, and I would recommend both personally. That's my opinion, but you can do what you want. Understand there will be a day where it's not going to matter how much fuel you have set back. Understand a long time shutdown, it takes a couple weeks to really put a strain on, depending on how much you have, your fuel reserves. If you have no other way of running anything other than fuel, and you're just running a generator all the time, then you're going to have some issues. But what you do with the generators, it can be a standby type situation where if you need to stock your water back up in containers, and they sell all kinds of water haul style containers, 7 gallons larger. I don't buy anything better or bigger than a 7 because it's a lot of weight. 7 gallons of water, you're averaging about 8 pounds for every gallon of water. Roughly, that's what they say a gallon of milk actually weighs. It's about 8 pounds. So it's right around in there with the water as well. So you want to make sure that you're setting that back. You want to make sure you have approved storage containers. If you're using plastic containers, I recommend stainless steel, but plastic is okay. But you want to make sure that you're using a plastic container that's designed to store water long term. You do not want BPA leaching into your water, because that is going to cause you health issues later down the road. I hear a lot of stuff about, the MSG and things like that that they put in these processed foods and stuff. And then I turn around and I see people drinking out of aluminum cans. There is a problem with that. Okay, having worked in aluminum smelter and knowing what the aluminum does to your body, they had a study that came out. I was in my teens back in the day, but when the inner coating of these cans break down and that aluminum is leaching, okay, understand aluminum will leach because you have an acidic type of a drink inside of these soft drink cans and stuff. They say that that can actually cause dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that. That was the reports that came out years ago. Now they act like we're not really sure what happens to it and stuff like that. I think it's interesting that Woodchurch tried to cover stuff up. Aluminum is kind of like plastic. It is one of the newer things that we have come up with. And just like plastic, it does not degrade back down into the ground naturally, just done. Plastic will not degrade. Even the bioplastic that they have that's supposed to decompose, it does not. It breaks down in a very small particle. And what is happening that they're finding out is we have microplastics all around us. We're breathing a lot of it in every day. And that's from burning it. That's from the the process of these bioplastics, which is just a really thin plastic that's designed to break apart at the molecular level, but it cannot be gotten rid of. And the same thing's true of aluminum. Once aluminum, the alumini ore is actually turned into aluminum, there is a process there. It is a patented process, so I can't describe too much of it here, but having worked for Alcoa, there is a lot of work that goes into that, and the aluminum can will sit there. It is not like the old steel cans that would rust away and be gone. It is aluminum can. It's not going anywhere. It's going to stay there. Plus, it has a type of a plastic type of coating in it that is coated the inside to keep the soft drink from actually getting that process started with the aluminum. So what you need to ask yourself is, do you trust the people at the factory that are making those cans that they're actually testing to make sure that those are coated well? Having worked a lot of industrial type settings, guys, for those who know what Boost is, it is the little bottles with the drinks that have multiple layers inside that bottle. There is several layers within that bottle. And what happens is the sun is sending rays in that would lower the shelf life on that stuff. So they put all these different types of layers inside of it. It's adhered whenever it is extruded into a mold, and then it's a big blow mold type of a situation. But one of the things that I learned having worked around that is a lot of the operators, they will sit there and they will just do whatever they can to make their bottle pass, even though it's not matching specifications. They lie, they just type in numbers and stuff like that. And that affects the shelf lives of those types of drinks. The workforce in America, unfortunately, does not take their job serious. They don't give a crap that these procedures have to be followed. So be careful storing anything in those types of plastics as well. It just kind of is what it is. I highly recommend that you do what you can around your house. Get your food now. I would be buying alcohol. When I say alcohol, I don't mean vodka. And if that's what you want, that's fine. I'm talking about rubbing alcohol, hydrogen peroxides. I would even be looking at iodine. I would be looking at different types of antibiotics and things like that, triple antibiotics, Bactrin, things like that that you can buy, and you want to make sure that you have that type of stuff, because it does not take long for a wound to turn septic. Understand, if you are not bathing the way that you bathe now because you don't have water sources, you have a well, you're ahead of the game. You might have to deal with some cold water showers every now and then, but hey, the summertime in Florida, that's the best kind. But you need to be paying attention to what it is that you're doing in your setups. You need to make sure that you're watching expiration dates when you store your food. Make sure that you are pulling that food out as you're putting new food in. That way you're using your stores. That would be what I recommend doing. When it comes to food around here, I'll take it and I'll mark on the package when I put it in the freezer. And I know exactly how long that stuff's been in the freezer. It does not typically sit long. Understand, what I am doing out here right now, eventually I will be to a point where I don't have to go to a store at all. But what I'm working on right now is getting to a sustainable level so that, one, cut the grocery bill in half. Eventually, I'd like to be gone completely. I don't see that happening anytime soon because this is still a new startup. We're 1 year into this. So where other people see that there's not much progress, understand, hey man, I'm doing the best I can, one person. So if you can do better, I'd love to see the videos. But also the main thing is you need to figure out exactly what it is that your needs are going to be. Plan for the needs that you can feel for your family. depending on your family size. The more people you have in a family, especially if you've got kids, and when I'm saying kids, I don't mean little babies. I'm talking about kids that are old enough to maybe go out and collect eggs. Maybe they can go out and feed the chickens, make sure that the waters are full, things like that. Maybe they can come help you weed in your gardens and stuff. But what they don't need to be doing is just sitting back at home in the summer, playing video games and not doing anything. Me personally, I would even make a competition out of it if you got kids. There's nothing wrong with healthy competition. Each side gets a garden, they plant their stuff, see who does what. That's a great way for kids to learn. If they can't figure it out, what's going on with gardening, understand we have not had a SHTF scenario yet. The internet is highly available, and you can get on and you can ask here, you can ask anywhere, and you can even Google it, and we're going to be able to help you out with what's going on with your plant if you're having some issues. 9 times out of 10, it's either too much water or not enough water. That's usually what the issues are. There can be issues when it comes to nutrients and things like that. People get over exasperated. They're like, oh, I just really want this plant to be big. And then they go and they kill the plant because they just dump a bunch of fertilizer on it. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that that fertilizer is in a state to which it can be readily available. Most of that stuff that's in granules that you dissolve down into water and stuff, it is not readily available. It takes a little bit for that to actually start to break down in the ground for the plant to draw it up, even though it looks like it's dissolved. Now, when you have different types of quail manures and natural slurries and stuff that you're doing, that stuff, when it is processed down into the water, when you pour it in, within just a few hours, it's drawing those nutrients up. So it's better to use natural fertilizers than this chemical pelletized little crystal looking stuff that you buy in the store. But if that's all you can get, then hey, go for it. But what you're going to run into is a serious problem with how much that stuff's going to cost right now. Here's what I'm looking at right now is go out to the garden store and I'm like, okay, I might want to get some 10-10-10 to build the backside of this garden up. Just be easier, just come out, put it in a spreader and spread that stuff out real good for the next stage of the garden. But I'm not going to do that. The reason why I'm not going to do that is because it's $30 for a 15-pound bag. It's insane. I'm not going to pay that. I will not pay that. I've got plenty of manure back here. Now, I would like to use that for other purposes to make bigger gardens and continue pushing the stuff. But between the quail and the chickens, I think I'm pretty good. I won't be using a lot of that chicken mulch that's back there, the chicken manure and the pine flake and all that different stuff. And that's going to be to build the ground up. Now, the quail manure, on the other hand, that will be turned into compost teas and things like that. That will be to help push those plants along as they grow. And then when it comes into needing, if you flowering and all of a sudden you slow down in flower, it's probably time to go ahead and expand the growth on the plant first. So you want to add your quail manure compost tea. It's got a good nitrogen. It's not too hot to burn it. And you're going to come out and you're going to wait a week after you apply that. And you're going to notice an explosion of growth on your plants. They're going to get a lot bigger. And then at that point, then you can take and you can put in your slurries and things like that we were talking about with the potash. The potash is basically just burnt and ground down bones and hardwood. Do not use pine. Don't use any kind of softwoods and things like that, especially cedar, because cedar has a chemical even when you burn it down, and it's going to cause you some issues later, guys. So don't use cedar ashes. Use hardwood ashes. That's going to be oak, things like that as well, guys. So that's going to be my recommendation to you on that, how to care for your garden and how to prepare. Understand, if you're not preparing now, if you're not stocking back your supplies now, you're going to have an issue here very soon. The reason I say that is because we're seeing the constant change of pricing. Inflation, if you want to call it that, planned inflation is what I would call it. But you're going to see the inflation is changing the prices. And then we're going to also start seeing a very severe lack of food options. And then eventually, what they're saying, by the end of this year, we're going to see a lack of food supply, period. Meaning there's not going to be a lot of it out there. So if you're growing your own, that's going to help you during these price increases. How long is this stuff going to happen? Man, I don't know. I've been reading international news and stuff, and one of the things that I'm seeing is most of these countries that are producing wheat and things like that, they are actually closing their exports. They're keeping that within their own country. And the reason they're doing that is because they don't want their people starving. So what do we do here in America? What we do here in America is our farmers, they do not receive the type of stipends that they need, much like our truck drivers at this point. They need to be funneling money into that to keep our economy going. The government doesn't seem to care. That's hurting us with truck drivers. It's hurting us with diesel fuel prices. It's hurting us with fertilizer prices and all this different types of stuff. And we do not have the infrastructure built up anymore because it's easier to let somebody else do it and then we just buy it from them, is the way we have always been in this country here recently. Now, it was not always that way. And for me to be able to go out here and get to a level where I don't really have to go to the grocery store. There's those special items I like bread. I can't grow my own bread yet. I can eventually. I'm not set up for that yet. But you grow your own bread, maybe sausage. I don't have any pigs. I don't think I want to ever keep pigs. They stink. They're really bad. I went to a hog farm one time years ago, and it was disgusting. I'm just not big on that. Now, you can make sausage out of most any kind of red meat. I've had squirrel sausage, I've had deer sausage and things like that. It is nice to add that extra fat in there, but it is not required. Understand? When it comes down to it, you're going to have people that are going to be fighting over a can of dog food before it's over and done. You don't believe me? It will happen. What happened during the Great Depression? Well, the people who was always going to the stores, they started hurting. The people who were living out in the rural areas growing their own food, yes, they felt it, but they still had food to eat. That's where we're headed, guys, as a society. Are we ready to get back to that type of living? Me personally, the little bit I've got going so far, I love it. I wish I'd have done it years ago. I really do. But it is what it is. Now, when it comes to dreams, I think I'd mentioned in some posts before that, yeah, it'd be nice to be able to buy something like up near Maggie Valley or, Asheville or something like that. And, build a really nice enclosed greenhouse that's got its own ecosystem and stuff where it's kind of full functioning, But that takes time to get to that. And I would not invest any kind of money into something like that as of right now, unless I could just pay it straight off. And I'm not seeing land prices where I would like them to be. Understand, when people start hurting for money, you're going to start seeing houses go on the market, because the housing market, the bubble is about to burst. You're going to see a lot of houses come on the market. You're going to start seeing a lot of land coming in too. One of the things that Russia did before all of this mess started is they spent the last few years building their infrastructure so that they grew enough food for their own people. And they also grew enough food to be able to sell it to their ally over in China, so they can still get their money to fund their wars and things like that. That's what happened. That's what's been happening for the past few years. They were ready for it. Our country, not so much. We're sitting there and we're trying to pay people thousands of dollars to, have kids. Why? Well, that's the only way to save the economy. People don't fully understand what the economy is. It is not just about spending money. It is about being able to earn a living. See, we in this country, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in this country, we are born free. Now, they try to make you a slave, but we are born free. We have that option of what type of life that we want to live. You're going to see land prices start coming down, mind you. Understand that. Prices on land is going to come down a little bit here, probably in the next few months. The reason I say that is people are going to be selling off extra land that they have just laying around because they're not thinking. They're going to sell it off so they can pay their monthly mortgage for, $2,000 for a house that's right in the middle of the city, or they're whatever it is. They're going to be given these properties and stuff with family members as they pass and stuff. And they're not going to be able to do anything with it. They don't care. They're going to sell it for money, and you're going to be able to pick it up eventually. But understand, I think we're coming up on a time where money's not really going to be worth a whole heck of a lot here before too long. But that's just kind of my opinion on it. But if you've stocked up and you think you're good for the next 5 years, that would be awesome. If you're good for next year, hey, that's great. And then if you've got some money, then yeah, I would say buy you a plot of land somewhere. Even if you're not going to build on it, at least have it where you can come out there and you can park your little camper, tend your gardens and stuff like that if you need to. And then you can go back to your home and stuff. Understand, a garden does not need as much care as what I do out there, but it really increases the production. So I'm going to hop off here. I hope everyone's having a beautiful week. We got the weekend coming up. As of right now, it doesn't really look like there's going to be any rain, but I don't hold that much luck out because, again, Saturday, kind of looking at maybe going out and doing some fishing, and it never fails. It will rain. we'll see how it works out. Everyone have a good day.